In today's video, it's the dreaded sight reading. Run! Ah! Okay, that was a bit silly, but wait. Hopefully you'll get a laugh. Welcome everybody to Making Music. I am Michael and today we're talking about one of my favorite subjects in the world, sight reading. I know you probably are thinking I'm a bit crazy. Yeah, I know I am, but that's a whole nother story. Look, most people, I would say, probably fall into the camp of they don't really like their sight reading. So purpose of today's video is if you are one of those people that don't really like to do sight reading, hopefully we're going to set you on the right path to hopefully one day loving it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the usual. We're going to stay tuned for a top tip, but we're going to go through everything, top tip at the end, and then all going to be good. So before we do, as you always know, a million one ways to play music, a million one ways to go about it. My advice is based on my education, bachelor's degree from Trinity, master's degree from Royal College, and I've been teaching and playing professionally for over 20 years. Hope you found something you like. If you don't, hey, that's okay too. Whatever you do, leave me a comment, like the video, and please subscribe. So yeah, all sounds good. So listen, we have done two other videos. One is if you don't like your scales. So if you're one of those people as well, check out that video, link somewhere here. Another one for if you don't like your oral tests, again along the same vein, again link somewhere over here somewhere. And also done a video about what to do in the 30 seconds before you actually start your sight reading in the exam. Again, link somewhere here. We'll cover a little bit of that off in this video, but there'll be lots more content to cover off anyway. So let's get into it. So let me just expel a myth, which I've heard many people many people talk about. And that myth is you can't practice your sight reading. Wrong, wrong, wrong. You can and you must practice your sight reading, okay? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that people say they're just not very good at sight reading and they just can't do it. The number one reason why people don't like their sight reading is they're not very good at it. Plain and simple. And then if you combine that with a myth of saying you can't practice your sight reading, say, well, hey, I'm just doomed not to be able to sight read. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Look, anyone can get better at sight reading. And look, guys, it's here to stay. Depends on where you live in the world. They put a bigger emphasis on it than in other places. For instance, in the UK here, it is vitally important. If you can't sight read, you won't get work. Simple as that. When I'm called up to do an orchestral concert, I literally arrive at 3 o'clock, never seen the music before. We rehearse it once through. We go and get a bite to eat. Concert 7:30. I'm pretty much playing the music for the second time ever in the concert. Okay? You've got to be able to sight read. So if you can't sight read, there's no excuse. This is like there's no excuse for not knowing your scales. Just do something about it. Okay? Right. So first things first. Like I said in my scales video, the first thing is you have to want to get better. You have to want to get better. And like I said in my scales, as something which is holding you back, normally it's having to put the time and the effort into getting better seems like more pain than just where you are at the moment, which is just accepting that you're not very good at it. You've got to flip that round. At some point, you're going to get a rude awakening. Someone's going to catch you out or what have you, and you're just going to go, okay, right, I really need to sort this now. So better to be proactive about it rather than to wait for that time to happen. It's never pleasant when you get caught out. No, not nice at all. Right. The next thing that we're going to talk about is if you're not very good at something, just like with your scales, just like with your oral, just like with your pieces, is to break it down, slow it down. You got to do it, break it down and slow it down. So what do I mean by that? But with sight reading, you've got to do it all in one go. No. If you're struggling with your rhythm, do just the rhythm. If you're struggling with pitch, just concentrate on the pitch. If you're struggling with doing your left hand, just focus on your left hand. If you're struggling with the right, you see what I'm trying to say, okay? If you can't do the really difficult stuff, Do the basic stuff first and get good at that. Once you've done that, then suddenly it becomes a lot easier to climb that ladder of complexity. Ladder of complexity? Is that a saying? It is now. Right, so climb that ladder of complexity, but start at the bottom. So let's give you another example. Let's say, for instance, you struggle with rhythm, and particularly you struggle with pieces that are in 6/8. Okay, so for those of you who may not be quite as advanced, 6/8 is basically 2 beats in the bar, but the 2 beats are subdivided into 3s. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And what will often happen is you'll get a kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like a dotted kind of rhythm. Dum da dum da dum da 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 dum. I'm not being very clear here, am I? But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, let's say you struggle with 6/8. What should you do? Focus on the rhythm. Focus on the rhythm that you're struggling with, those rhythms. Learn them, internalize them. The more and more you do them, the more it becomes second nature. Then start adding little bits on top of it. Start with maybe adding some notes in, some pitch into there as well. Then start adding some dynamics bit by bit by bit by bit. Slow it down though, and then speed it up, okay? Okay, the next thing that I would highly, highly recommend that you do, particularly if you're doing sight reading in an examination type environment, you go for your next grade, is get the specimen sight reading tests. Yes, get the specimen sight reading test. Why? Because it'll give you a really good idea about what they're looking for in the exam. So if you take, this is just the grade 1, so you can see here, for instance, you're not going to be playing both hands together very often, if at all. It's going to be, you can see the type of rhythms, okay, crotchets mainly, quarter notes, a lot of eighth notes, quavers, half notes, minims, etc., etc. It's mainly in 4/4, 3/4, and is there in 2/4? I'm sure why wouldn't there be 2/4? I mean, I don't know. But you can see the kind of things that they're looking for, okay? And with that, that gives you a really good grounding to go what to look for in terms of improving your sight reading, if that makes sense. And the other thing you can do then is, there's so many resources out there these days. Go and find something that can help you. There's so many books about improving your sight reading stuff. I'm not going to go over them all now because there's far too many to cover off, but there's some very good ones out there. So go and get something like, if it helps you, go take you through methodically what each of the what you need for that syllabus, and it'll help you to improve it. Okay, right. The next tip I'm going to give you, exactly the same thing as I did with the scales, is 5 minutes. 5 minutes, right. What? Practice your sight reading every day for 5 minutes. You'll be amazed at what you can achieve in just 5 minutes. Often you'll run over, not every time, but often you will. Before you know it, you've done 10 minutes worth of sight reading practice, okay? So make sure you incorporate it into your every practice session, because that's the best way, routine, to get better at something. Next thing, if you can, play with other people. Some of the best learning I got from sight reading was accompanying. So you have to, a lot of times you accompany someone for an exam, they'll stroll in the door, they'll hand you the music, and you've got to play it. It's normally fine for the lower grades, what have you, but when you get to some grades 6, 7, and 8, it can actually be quite tricky. I remember once I had this sweeping sevenths like this, and then it went into 9s. So I was going, holy bananas, this is not quite, you would have liked to have had a look at that before to make sure you're prepared, but hey, so be it. You have to keep going. Okay, so you have to keep going. So if you can, play with other people, whether it be in bands, whether it be in company, whatever it is, play with other people. Okay, and that's it for today. Just got time for the top tip. Can you guess what it is? Probably should have done this at the beginning actually, because it is such an important top tip. Simple. Read, read, read. Simple as that, right? The more you read music, the better you'll become at it. Simple as that, absolutely. There is no difference really between reading letters and reading notes. In fact, actually, you could argue that reading notes is actually more logical because it's like a ladder system. Obviously, the higher up the ladder you are, the higher the note, the lower the ladder, the lower the note. If I give you the letter T, who associated T sound with that shape? It's just a shape, isn't it, at the end of the day? So, or with S, with S, I mean, you have to learn that this particular shape means this particular sound, whereas at least with music you can actually figure out, if you know where one note is, you can, do you see what I mean? So it's just reading shapes. Instead of translating them into sounds with your mouth, you actually just translate them to sounds, well, it could be if you're singing obviously, onto the piano or whatever instrument is you play. So there's no difference between deciphering what you see on a page, whether it's letters or music. So the more you do it, the more you recognize things, the more you see patterns, it becomes easier. So read more and more and more, and I promise you, you will get better at your sight reading, okay? Of course, don't forget to keep going. That's quite, very, very important in the exam itself. Obviously, that's covered off in the other video of, 30 seconds before sight reading. Link again one more time. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.